Today I will show you a very cool trick that will bake your layered materials into single texture like 3D painting softwares. That will reduce the cost and efficiency, and you can create multiple variations of your layered material directly in Unreal Engine. So here I have a cylinder here, and if we take a look in the UVs, I kind of prepare this way. One side will be the side and the other part will be the top and bottom faces. So let's create a new material instance. I will call this mi_barrel. Let's open this and I will just assign to our mesh. Here we will select the LayerCraft as the parent, and in the layers we will use LayerCraft. That will open up the layer parameters for us. So now we have our background layer, which is none. It is empty. So we will use layer attributes. We will enable this, and by default we have these textures by placeholders. So albedo, packed, and normal. So first I will go over a rusted metal texture set. I have albedo, packed, and normal textures. So this is my texture setup, but as you can see in the UVs we have the stretching. What we can do easily in the UV logic, when we enable tiling controls, I can just tile this on the x-axis by 2 and we will get rid of this tiling issue. And let's just assign this new material we are creating to our blueprint that will be baked later, and we will be able to see the UV coordinates of the layered material. So we adding a new layer. This time I want to add some normal details for the barrel. For this I don't have a specific normal, but I can just use any kind of normal. In this case I'm just choosing a roof material. These roof normals that have a vertical lines, the horizontal lines that I will use. So if I just really decrease the tiling amount on the X, we will have this stretching, but since I will only use the normal information from them, it will be okay. You can see in the cylinder we have these rings now, and I just want to play with the tiling. I want to have 3 rings on the total. So we just have the offset, and you can see we have now, okay, look, these rings are mimicking the normal information. Just offset it like this and it should be good. Okay, let's go over the masking method. As the blend method, what I just need the normal information. So I will go over the material, not in the material, but the attribute blend. I will disable the color and just enable the normal. So this will receive the data from the top layer only by the normal channel. And now we have this normal information, the normal override. But the thing is, it's on the whole UV, so I don't want this normal detail on the top and bottom faces. So I will create a UV mask for this. This is my trim sheet generation. So basically I will just create a trim sheet. Here you can see the mask, and I will just scale this. If we can set the U size 10, it will cover all the X direction, and I can just play with the values. This is snapping, so I will need -1, and it will cover exactly the area that I want. So this white area where my side UVs are happening, and now I'm masking this normal information only on the specific UV area. And okay, let's go over more layers. We will create a detailed layered material. Again, our master layer, and we open the textures. I will assign some kind of sand texture set to mimic some kind of dusts, you know, some details. In the UV logic, I will also need to for the stretching, I will need to tile this on the X direction for 2, and we can play with the brightness a little bit, and that's it. This is my sand overall, and this is like covering everywhere. So I will again need to create a logic for the masking. And how I want to do it, I want to make it on a gradient scale that will like cover from ground up. It will be building up the sand. So I will use gradient procedural mask method. When I enable this, you will see these options. By default, it will work on the UV space. And I have the channel, this red now, and you can see if I switch to green, now I have this gradient, and you can play with the contrast and amount, and it is the correct direction for the faces on the side part, but it is also building up on the top, which is like covering whole. That is not what I want. So what we can do again the same trim sheet actually to mask it out. We can multiply the two masks, but I don't need to create the same logic again. I can just use like a anchor points in Substance Painter. So what I call is blow mask. So I will need to by default they are not adding to the anchors like blow mask. So in the bottom layer, if I come over and enable the override blow mask, this will send its base mask data throughout the material system. So each layer can use this information without additional cost. This is what is really smart workflow, I guess. In the Substance they will use so much. So by default it is using max. I need to use it multiply. So I will just multiply my gradient with this mask. So here I have cut down the top and bottom faces, the UV, and this is what I need actually. And actually we can create more detail. We can create a detail mask, and to break up this gradient, the smooth transition, into some kind of pattern, here we have the displacement data, but and I don't know, you can see it is yeah, it's kind of subtle difference. You can play with the detail, mask amount and contrast. It will only affect on the transition area. It will not change the general mask amount. You can see these patterns happening, this kind of build up, but maybe better to use roughness. Here we have the roughness information, and yeah, very nice. It's like using all these stretches, all these roughness details as the mask. So we are kind of building up here on the close-up. It's very nice building. Some kind of scratches everywhere, and the breakup contrast will sharpen the blend, but the default is now okay. Before we continue, we can rename our layers so we have more organized structure, normal and dusts. Very nice. And one more thing, we have the blow mask. If we just play with the additionally, you know, we can control our existing mask. So we can add to this black areas a little bit more, so it will be like a gray, and this will be creating a additional smooth transition, like really subtle on the top faces, which this dust is naturally will build up. So for the last layer, I want to use a decal, a sticker for my barrel to more personalize it. So I will assign my master layer and my master blender. So in the layers, in the textures, I have this kind of decal, no, graffiti. Yeah, I will assign my graffiti texture. And in the pack texture, I will assign this opacity texture also. And in the response, I have the opacity option, which I can enable. And we will use opacity as the mask, and we will have the packed method. So we will use the packed texture as the opacity mask. So let's go over the UV logic. If I want to tile this, you can see this texture will be repeating. I can increase even more, maybe 3 will be good. So I have this repeating texture. Now I have the sampler clamped option. If I do this, I will just use this texture only one time, and other areas will be clamped by the general value. In this case is blue. So this is my texture projected, and I can play with the tiling controls to place wherever I want in the UV space. So it's really good to work with the plane on the side, so you can see how you are manipulating your UVs. So that's looking good. This kind of place, you can use also the rotation. And yeah, like we have this clean decal now. So we need a blending now. We want to use existing attributes from the top layer. So I will enable the detail mask, and I will say overlay. So this will be like multiplying and just exist like a base. It will act like a base mask. So now you can see we have something going on. And if I come over here, and we can use opacity. And this is trying to use the opacity from bottom layer by default. And if I select the use top layer, you will see it will receive the opacity mask, opacity information from the top, and it will be used as a mask for the both layers. So now we have this opacity. Now we have a decal as a layer. No need for additional draw calls. And like this is so clean because we have this one constant opacity mask. Let's rename this as graffiti. And now we can actually add a little more detail. We can use a texture mask. I can enable the texture mask, and I will immediately see a texture happening, a breakup happening in my decal. Here you can see I have this breakup by this noise texture, and I can control the texture amount to reveal or clean up the top layer. You can use the contrast for more sharpness. And even I have a tiling option. So I can use more tile, more breakups, whatever you feel like. But for now, I think that's okay. So this is my, for example, of a layered material. So I have this 4 layers without additional any specific bake textures, no PBR, no custom texture for this asset. All is happening in the existing system. So also this using the roof texture as a normal map information with additional custom UVs. It is also a good example, I guess, how to use your existing information. You don't need a specific texture, specific bakes for each individual operations. You can just be smart, be creative, and you can work things around. So the next part, we will try to bake out our textures. So this is my blueprint actually. And we are using this material. We are using source as the layered material. We are having PBR set and ORM texture set. This is the naming, this is the resolution, and I will come over, but before, 2 things I need to do. In the material, in the details, we have the LayerCraft. Unfortunately, we will have to do this by manually. It is not something we can do it automatically in the LayerCraft, in the blueprint. So we just enable the LayerCraft and set the blend mode to alpha composite. These are necessary for our baking operation. Now we are ready to bake, and it will be creating in the maps folder. When I click the bake, it will go over every shader, it will compress all this information. My computer is not very great, usually it takes much less time. But there we have it. We have these 3 texture sets. Let's go over each of them. We have the base color, masks, and normal. Next thing to do, we need to create a material instance, a new material instance to assign our textures. So we will have a different material for this asset. It will not use layered material system, it will be using this bake out texture. So let's open this up. And because of the duplicate, we have the LayerCraft enabled. I will just get rid of the alpha composites and the LayerCraft. Now in the material, we will use MaterialCraft, not the LayerCraft. I will disable this. Disabling LayerCraft, it will disable all these layer operations. So what we have is just standard material, and it is the same material layer logic. We just assign our textures and voila, we have the same asset exactly, but without any layers. We can just disable these layers, and we will have our actually like classic material without any additional mask blend logics. You can see in the shader complexity, we can see the difference, like 4 layers, non-layer. It is really optimizing. The layered materials is really creative, but can be really pain in the ass in the GPU actually. Like calculating blending each mask, each layer's pixel information, how to blend, when to blend. So that can be a problem. So for the last part, I want to show a dynamic bake operation. I will add this to the new update in the LayerCraft, which is the same thing, but we have dynamic craft in the LayerCraft, which is like enabling material parameters, layer parameters in the blueprint. So you will have these are the layer parameters, and you can see I can just select the surface. Adding arrays will be like the indexes of the layers. So the index 0 will be the background layer. So if I just enable the albedo controls, by default I have disabled this to reduce the instructions. But if I enable this controls, now I can access to the color information for the background layer. So if I just plus, add a new array to the index, and I will just set the override, and I can control brightness, I can control desaturation, tint color, all this kind of information to create a new totally different look. So this is like the color. I can also additionally control if I want to control the color of the sand, I can add more information, the more indexes, and this brightness in the index 2 will only affect on the sand or dust layer. Like fine-tune controlling each layer through the detail panel of the blueprint. In the level, it can be more efficient to level up the speed up the process. So for the last, I want to show you the UVs. But by default, if I overwrite, it will get rid of the existing details. So I can just come over here, play with the decall layers, UVs. So that's it. This is how you do it. We are not changing any parameter in the material instance. So in the side plane, you can see my material. They are using the same material instance, same layered structure, but it doesn't update the instance. It will just create a dynamic material and it will assign these changes to that. So let's try to bake. First set up our bake operations, and then we will name this, and actually again let's save it. And again, before the bake we need to enable LayerCraft and the alpha composite, and when we click bake, now we go over this process again, and our new textures are created here. So to view this, we need to create a new material instance for this new texture set. I'll just duplicate this mesh, come over here, duplicate the material, add this material to the mesh, assign it, and in the textures, grab my new texture sets, and voila, we have two different assets without having layers, without costs of blend operations, masking, any kind of things. We have this simple structure, simple material, simple meshes, simple assets, props, but you can create many variations, as many as you like, inside the Unreal Engine. You don't need to use additional 3D softwares, and I don't see this workflow anywhere. I think it's a really unique one, really can be speed up the process. I'm working on a kind of editor utility for this baking operation to make it more efficient. But for now, it's a really satisfying process. I'm really proud of this process. I hope you value this too. And this BakeCraft is also in the last update in the LayerCraft, so you can purchase it and support me. So thank you so much and have a nice day.